We're always told to follow our passion, right? To find our motivation and just ride that wave of inspiration. But what if that's actually terrible advice? What if the very thing we're chasing is what's setting us up to fail? Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful idea. That slow, steady discipline, not that flashy, fleeting motivation, is the real engine that gets you where you want to go.
So, think about it. We've all been there. You get this amazing idea, this jolt of energy for a new project, a new diet, a new goal. And for a week, you are unstoppable. And then it just fizzles, it dies out, leaving you right back where you started. Why does that happen over and over again? Well, the answer, believe it or not, can be found in the story of two architects, one career-making competition, and two totally different ways of getting things done. Okay, so here's the setup, the Apex Initiative. It's this massive, legacy-defining project. We're talking $1 billion skyscraper, and the deadline is a tight 6 months. For our two architects, Elias and Julian, this isn't just another job. This is the whole ballgame, and it's going to test everything they think they know about how to create something great. And their first reactions? They tell you everything. Elias, he's instantly captivated by the end result. His mind is just this explosion of brilliant, beautiful images of the finished building. He sees the glory. Julian, on the other hand, he's quiet. He pulls out a calendar and starts calculating the number of workdays. He doesn't see the finish line. He only sees the first step. So, for the first couple of weeks, Elias is an absolute machine. He's pulling all-nighters, he's living on coffee, and he's just buzzing with the energy of his own vision. To anyone looking in, he's the picture of a creative genius at work. He's totally in the zone. But what's actually happening inside his brain? Well, here's a little bit of science that's absolutely key. We all talk about dopamine, right? We call it the reward chemical. But that's not quite right. It's really the chemical of anticipation. It's the thrill of the chase, not the prize itself. It's what gives you that massive push to start something new. And right now, Elias's brain is swimming in it. And this is exactly how we talk about it, isn't it? I just felt it. The muse was there. I was on fire. It feels incredible, almost magical. It feels like it's going to last forever. But it's just that, a feeling, a temporary chemical high. Meanwhile, Julian isn't chasing a feeling at all. He's running a system. He works from 9 to 6, and at 6 p.m., he goes home. Every single day. He works in these scheduled, focused blocks of time. He knows, instinctively, that trying to build a massive project on the shifting sands of emotion is a disaster waiting to happen. Julian is building his house on solid bedrock. And then, just like it always does, the crash comes. Psychologists actually have a name for this phase. They call it the Trough of Sorrow. And it's that long, brutal middle section of any big project. You know the feeling. The initial excitement is long gone, the work has become a grind, and the end is nowhere in sight. And this is where Elias's whole world falls apart. The big dopamine rush is gone, and he has nothing else to run on. So he starts doing things that feel productive but aren't. He'll spend hours organizing his desktop icons or researching materials he'll never use. He's basically just looking for any cheap, easy little dopamine hit to replace the big one that vanished. But here's the thing. Don't think Julian is some kind of robot. He feels it too. He gets bored. He gets distracted. He hates working on the tedious parts just as much as Elias. That internal resistance, that little voice in your head screaming at you to just check your phone for a minute, that's called limbic friction. And Julian feels it, but he has a plan to fight back. This is it. This is the secret. Julian understands something that most of us get completely backward. He doesn't wait until he feels motivated to work. He knows that's a losing game. He forces the action first, no matter how small. He creates what scientists call behavioral momentum. And what's amazing is that once you start moving, the feeling of motivation often shows up to the party a little later. So, things finally come to a head one night in the office. Elias is a mess, his project is in chaos, and he finally breaks down and asks Julian how he does it. And in that moment, Julian gives him the one metaphor that explains everything. He tells him to think of it like a rocket launch. Motivation. That's the solid rocket booster. It's all fire and noise and incredible power. It's absolutely essential to get you off the ground, but it's designed to burn out in a few minutes and fall away. Discipline. That's the orbital engine. It's quiet, it's not flashy, but it's the thing that fires up next and provides the slow, steady, relentless burn that carries you through the vast emptiness of space, all the way to your destination. Let's just break that down.
Look at the comparison. Motivation is explosive, but you can't sustain it. Discipline is steady. Motivation is based on your emotions, which change all the time. Discipline is completely agnostic to how you feel. And here's the most important part, their purpose. Motivation's job is to get you started. That's it. Discipline's job is to keep you going. So that's the big idea. But how do you actually build this orbital engine for yourself? Well, Julian explains that it's not about having more willpower or just trying harder. It's actually about being smart and tricking your own brain. And his advice is just genius. He says, don't try to force yourself to work for 2 hours. Your brain will fight you on that. Instead, set a goal that is so ridiculously small it's almost laughable not to do it. Just open the document. Just draw one single line. Your willpower is limited, so use it only to overcome that tiny initial friction. Once you're in motion, momentum and habit take over. You trick your brain into starting. So, fast forward to the final presentation day. The results are a perfect reflection of their processes. Elias shows up with these gorgeous, sweeping artistic images. It's a beautiful dream, but when the judges ask about the details, he stumbles. Julian, on the other hand, presents a methodical, layered, airtight fortress of a plan. He has an answer for everything because he's built it brick by boring brick. And the winner was, well, it was never really in doubt, was it? One project was chosen, Julian's. The orbital engine made it to orbit. The rocket booster fell back to Earth. After it's all over, Elias has this huge moment of insight. And he says something that I think so many of us, especially creative types, deeply believe, that discipline is the enemy. It's this rigid cage that's going to crush our spontaneous creative spirit. But then he says this. I was wrong. Discipline isn't a cage. It's a scaffolding. And that's it right there. It's not something that holds you back. It's the very structure that allows you to build your vision higher. Without that structure, your most ambitious ideas will just collapse under their own weight. And the proof that Elias finally gets it isn't some grand gesture. It's this. The next day, he comes in, he sets a timer for 45 minutes, does focused work, and then he goes home. It's a small, controlled, repeatable action. It's the quiet little click of an engine turning over, ready for the real journey.
So that leaves all of us with one final, very simple question. Forget about your huge, scary, ambitious goal for just a second. Forget the finished skyscraper. Instead, just think about that impossibly small first step. What is the one line you can draw? The one sentence you can write? What's the one tiny action you can take right now to get your own engine started?
Please like and subscribe.